Part of the series we had was actually where we did a floor plan. If you all remember, we started from somewhere here. Let me try to zoom into the layout. So this was the first plan we did in our first part of the series. After doing the first plan, we even went ahead and did a presentation drawing you can show to the client, which was this. And then from this, we went to what we call the 3D modeling of the project. This is our 3D view that we did from the project file that we are working on. So today in this series, what we're going to do is actually we are going to go and actually do now what we call the 3D rendering of this project. And we're going to render this using a software called Twinmotion. Specifically, I'm going to use Twinmotion 2025. And let's do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come and open up my rendering software. The rendering software I use is called Twinmotion, and I told you how you access it is you go through Epic Games Launcher. Epic Games is a platform just like Steam, just like EA Sports, a platform where you can actually play games, a platform where you can do many things. But one of the things they do is they give you an opportunity to render in a 3D software. So I'm going to come under Twinmotion, and then I'm going to look for Twinmotion 2025. Then I'm going to launch that version. How you take this Archicad to Twinmotion, which is the rendering software, is direct synchronization. You come under activate it. So I will come to Window, Palettes. I scroll down to Datasmith. I turn it on, so it will come here on the side. So this is what I'm going to use to link my file here to Twinmotion, because I want it to be linked and to be syncing everything. Like if I make a change here, the change happens on the other side. So I'm just going to tap on this. Now it will load. After loading, I can come to my Twinmotion now. Once you open your Twinmotion, the first thing you want to do is Twinmotion will actually give you a base here, a base to start doing your work from. It will give you a hill in the background and just a center point for you to know where your center of the project is. But I don't need all this because I already have my base from my Archicad file. So I'm going to come and select all these. And I'm just going to delete all of these ones here. I'm going to delete them. And then I have a blank page like this. Then I'm going to come down here where there's the word import. I'm going to import a new file. This time around, the nomenclature, I'm going to use direct link. So I'm just going to click on it because automatically Twinmotion will actually detect an open Archicad file. So the open Archicad file we have is this. Automatically Twinmotion is going to detect it, and you're just going to click on import. So it will load the file. After loading the file, of course, here you can't see it because it's somewhere very far, somewhere there. So for you to go there, you have to zoom up to it, but we don't have that time of zooming. What you're going to do is come here on your right click on this and click where it is the word zoom to selection. So once you do that, your project will actually come automatically here. So this is now our project file. This is how it will come in, depending on the materials you assigned it from the other side. So once you have this, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to start by applying material textures to this project. The first thing I'm going to do is the ground down. I want the ground down to be just grass. So I'll come under materials. I go where we have the word ground. Then I choose nature. There's nature, there's man-made, but I'm going to choose nature. I'm going to bring in grass 2. Let me do grass number 5. For Twinmotion, all you do is just left click on a material, drag it, left click and drag, left click and drag. So basically I just left clicked and then I drag. Then I'm just going to come and do a little edit to this material. I want it to not appear with these so many squares. I just want it to appear a little bit bigger. So you come onto your right, you're going to put in word space and increase the scale of these materials to just make them look a little bit realistic. Now, once that is done, what you don't want to forget is to save your project. Always make sure you save your project, because Twinmotion is that Twinmotion can stress you. Though it have an auto save feature, but if you don't turn it on, you're going to actually suffer. So what you need to do is you need to go and save this file. So click on Ctrl S. So once the file has saved itself, what you need to do next is start applying materials. Now, one thing I usually like to do is before actually I do any render, I usually like to go just go like on Pinterest, just get inspired by other people's works, other renders that you see. Just go there and check out something. So I'll just go to Pinterest. Once I'm in Pinterest, single story contemporary design. So once you do that, Let me just choose maybe this one. Okay, let's say this. I'm just going to open this in a new tab, so that it's just itself here. So I have this image here. I'm going to zoom it in here. So this is going to be our reference image as we're doing our renders. So I'm going to come here to Twinmotion, start by applying materials. I'll now start with a material of the floor. So the material for the floor, I'm just going to come here to my library, user library, and I check through. I already have the materials. I already set the textures to what I want. There are these walls at the balconies here. I usually use a paint called glossy white. I'm going to apply it here. Okay, so this is the tile that I wanted. I'm just going to edit it a little bit here. I'm going to adjust the color a bit. The tint, I'm going to make it a little bit darker. I click OK. It has a reflective surface. And then for my material surfaces of metal, I always use black. So I have a preset black that I have here in my materials, which is this. What is it? It's here. So I'm just going to come. I drag my black onto this. I need to come and work on my stone. So let me just go to our reference image. I just see if they have any. Now our reference image has a stone of this type. You see, there's this kind of stone here. It looks grayish, not so gray. So I'm going to come and choose here our stone. I'm going to look my stuff. So I have this stone here. It looks a little bit like gray. It's not so grayish. And then, but you can edit it a little bit. So I'm going to select this stone. Come to the properties of the stone here, change the color to a little bit to white, and then scale it up a bit, something like that. And then here we have white. So for these whites, I normally have a white that I use here. It's called titanium white. I'm going to come and select my white here. I'm going to apply on this surface. The same white is going to apply on these parapet walls on top. And then that same white, I think it's here. And the same white is going to apply on the copings on this, on the windows. And then for the windows, I have glass that is clear glass. I'm going to apply clear glass here on these windows. And then also apply clear glass on this surface here. Okay. What else? Now here, we have a material of gray on this surface. So here we have a dark gray. For dark gray, I'm going to go into my materials again. I have a gray texture that I have down here. It's this one here. So for the dark gray, I'm going to use this texture, and I just want to adjust it a little bit in terms of the scale because it's too rough. So I'm going to adjust the scale of this to somewhere like here. This is too much. Somewhere here. Okay, and then for the color, I'm going to leave the color as it is, and then I'm going to just make the surface reflect a little bit. And then for the light gray, I'm going to put this material here. This one is a little bit light. And then finally, we have another gray here. So basically, we have materials in the same family of shades of grays, not so far from each other. Maybe this one I'm going to put in a little bit of brown. Something like that, I think. Yes, this makes it look much better. Okay, so after you've applied your basic materials, another thing is there's this material here at the window. Pick this material and apply it on my. Now you see, now my windows are okay. Everything is now fine. No problem. Very good. So after applying your materials like this, don't forget to save. Always click on Ctrl S. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to now come and take your views. So let's just go to our reference image we just chose randomly. So actually, this image, why I chose it is basically for the environment, not for the materials or what, because we already have our materials that we are working with. So I just chose this image for the background environment, maybe also the foliage around. So, yeah, so I'm just going to go back to here, and then I'm going to create an image. I'm going to come down here where there are these tabs here. So there's what you call the media tab. You're going to click on the media tab. Then there's this plus sign, which helps you to create one image. So this is your first image. And immediately what you want to do is to go and set up this image. So you're going to come come here under image. You make sure that the image is in the format you want. Do you want it in 4K? Do you want it in 2K? Now that's up to you. Me, I'm just going to do a standard 2K image of 1920 width by height of 1080. So after leaving that the way it is, but if you want to choose other modes options, you can come here and you check there's 4K, there's 8K, there's 16K, and there's also custom. But for me, I just want 2K, which is okay with me. Then I usually do my settings from right to left. So the next tab here I have is FX. FX, I think, is just like edits you make to the image. So the first thing I usually want to change is the sharpness of my image. I usually set my sharpness to 50. Once you do that, you see a slight change in the image. Secondly, clarity. Now, if you adjust clarity, it will show how dark parts will appear dark, how bright parts will appear bright. So I usually set my clarity to about 15 to 20. And then saturation and contrast, I leave them where they are. I don't adjust those ones. Then I come to render tab. Under my render tab, I want to choose. Now, the new version of Twinmotion has 3 render engines. It has the standard engine, or what we're working on right now. It has what we call the Lumen engine, which is here. If you choose this is the Lumen engine right now. And then it has what we call the Path Tracer engine. So Path Tracer engine actually is what most people use to do standard good renders which look realistic. So I'm going to come and turn on my Path Tracer render. So once you turn on Path Tracer, this will happen. To try to refine the image to make it look good. Let me just zoom in here. If you just come in here and you try to look at the materials here, it will actually appear so good, you know. It appears almost realistic just on the spot. Let me come back to this view. And then under Path Tracer, you have qualities that you now set for your rendering. So you can set it to low, you can set it to medium, or you can set it to high. So I'm going to set mine to high. And then under high, there's this drop-down menu which says the word details. I'm going to click on my details. Samples per pixel, I'm going to change mine to 150, just for a simple, easy render. And then for the bounce, maximum bounce, this is how much, actually it even says maximum number of lights that bounce off your surfaces. Higher values will increase your render time. So I'm going to make mine to be 20. And then there's something called denoiser. You turn on the denoiser such that your image comes out clear. If you don't turn on the denoiser, the image will have a lot of dots. And then there's also a value for fireflies. So fireflies, they say it controls the visibility and exposure of artifacts. So I'm just going to set this to 10. Doing that, you're going to now go to the next stage, which is camera settings. Under my camera settings, I'm going to leave the exposure as is. I'm going to come back and work on the exposure later on. The white balance, I'm going to leave it the way it is. The tint, I'm going to leave it the way it is. Then I'm going to go under local exposure. I'm going to change my highlights to full. I'm also going to change my shadows to full. Once I do that, I'm going to go to my lens settings. Under the lens settings, the only thing I'm going to adjust there for the first time is the focal length. Focal length is how close or far your image is going to appear from your viewpoint. So I'm going to change my focal length to 40 millimeters and I hit enter. Once you do that, the image will pull itself closer to the screen. Don't worry. And then you come here, and then there's something called here parallelism. Parallelism is what you want to do, because what it helps you to do is actually it makes you focus your image and it becomes clear and straight. So I'm going to click it on it. And then I'm going to first uncheck this and I'm going to adjust my image now a little bit. I want to adjust my view. Now, just basing on our reference image here, it shows that there's some distance between the balcony and here there's some grass. And also you can look at the edges, almost the same distance they have at the edge here is the same distance they have at this other edge. So since this is our reference image, we're going to actually do almost the same settings here. And then also up on the top, the space they left on top, also take note of that. So you come here and then you're just going to adjust this a little bit. Just try to adjust it so that it fits a little bit like here. And then you can zoom in. Okay, let's do something like this. I think somehow, somewhere there. Then I'm going to come and update. There's just a small button here that is like a rotating symbol. You click on it. Then it will update the image. So this is now the view that we set for ourselves. So, and also just to be sure, to check these things to be sure, you can actually always come here under camera, you go down where there's composite overlays. There's something called grids. So those who do photography, those who take photos, you can, I think, you know what this means. So grids are just for you to center your image, to balance. So me, I don't need grids. I'll just use my eyes, which is totally okay with me. I'm going to turn off my grids. So after you've done that setting, you can just do one more test render to see how the image is looking. So this is just a test render that we've done to see our materials and so on. So the next thing that we are going to do is now going to be addition of what we call lighting to our scene. Now, Twinmotion, the latest version, brought a technology whereby you can actually light up your scene using what we call HDRI images. That's what we call high dynamic range. I think, yeah, high dynamic range images. These are images created by people. They take several shots like in a 360 angle degrees, and then they combine them to give you one image that can be rotated in a 360 direction all through. So those images and the software, they have the ability to read each other, and whereby the software will actually pick lighting from that particular image to cast onto your building. Then also at the same time, keeping properties of whatever is in that image to appear in your render. So what I'm going to do in this particular case is I'm going to come here under environmental tab. I'm going to come up here. Now, right now we are using what we call the dynamic sky, but we want to now use HDRI image. So I'm going to click on HDRI image. Once I click on HDRI image, automatically there are two types of HDRI image. One is a sky dome. A sky dome is one that's going to cast light from above. And then there's the one that we call a backdrop. So if you come and put it as a backdrop, you're going to realize that actually the HDRI image actually casts real light now, real light in the environment into your scene. Yeah, so this is now HDRI image. So what it does is it's going to cast for you real light from the environment into your scene, and also at the same time, it's also going to give you objects at the background. So you can now come and adjust your HDRI from here. First of all, the first thing you want to do is to first change the size of the HDRI. You center it very well at the back of your image, the image or the shot you've taken. And then the second thing that you're going to do is you're going to change the size to at least 1000. Just type in 1000 meters. Now it becomes bigger. And then the offset, you're going to offset it maybe like, or just leave it the offset from there. And then for now, let's leave all these settings as they are. Now I'm going to look for HDRI that actually looks good to me, that actually matches our reference image here. Because if you look at our reference image here, you want to see that they have here something like evening hours, because I see some red, golden hour is something at the back. So this is what we are going to aim for. So I'm going to come here and go under HDRI images. Okay, let me just watch as I download it, because okay, let me try this one, number 21. I'm going to first rotate it a little bit. I want let me do this and first try here. Okay, maybe let's just go with this. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come here under camera, and then I start changing the exposure of our image to at the front. Yeah, so right now the exposure is now so high, so I'm going to edit it manually. I'm going to start editing it manually. So I want the exposure to be like around, let me say around 6. 6 is too dark. I'm going to do like 7.5. Let me do 7.5. No, let me do like okay, here like 8. Actually 9. Let's try 9. Okay, that's 9. Okay, so if I come back, if I can't come back to my HDRI, this is what I'm going to be seeing, something like this. Now, if you come to our reference image, you realize that actually inside there's somewhere we have furniture. You see there's furniture indoors and so on. And then we have these lights. Now, the good thing with Twinmotion actually introduced something called Parallax window. How Parallax window works is you find it under objects. Parallax window is a tool. How actually it's a tool that's going to help you to have interior of the house without actually you doing interiors. So I'm going to come and just choose here a parallax window. Maybe I'll just choose something like this. So this has more like it has like a sofa setting inside the house. So what I will do, I'm going to move it inside the house a little bit. Now, once you move it inside, if you come here, you're going to actually see that now your house has like some life inside. Yeah, so for the parallax window, I'm going to come here and start doing a little bit of edits. At least we just need to get something close to this. Some little lighting, some few, just something close to this. So first of all, the first setting I want to do is I want to turn off dusk to dawn. And then you're going to come and adjust the exposure from here. So here, the night exposure shows it's high. I'm going to reduce it a little bit. And then I'm going to come and change the temperature of the whole parallax window inside to look more like inside the house. So I'm going to come here and I also adjust on the, temperature, I want it something like this. Exposure, I'm going to reduce it a little bit. Okay, I'm going to raise it a little bit to here so that when I check in my setting, it will be something like this. So that's the use of a parallax window actually. It gives you objects in the house without you having to model the interior, one by one. So at least that is one thing that Twinmotion has done for us. So I'm going to still adjust it a little bit. I see it is too bright. Something like that at least, yeah. This window here, this is a dining, so I'll put this kind of parallax window here. I'm just going to bring it on the ground floor, this level. Oh, actually this other parallax window it's coming out from the other side. So I need to drag it a little bit. Okay, I need to have it here, but I also need to adjust on the sides here a little bit. Something like this, yeah. And then for this particular one, I need to bring it to the level of the floor here a bit. I'm going to drag it this side. Then I move it inside the house. So when I come here in my view, I have something like that. Of course, it's too bright, so I'm going to turn off dusk to dawn. I'm going to change the temperature a bit, exposure. I'm going to turn the exposure down a little bit also. Something like that. At least, yeah. I think this is much, much good and better. So, and also for us not to compete with the light at the back, I'm going to put here like a hedge. A hedge, I mean just like MET, how they call it. Just like a small, to put some hedge at the back here. I'm going to come under a library, vegetation, or something called MISC. Then I'm going to get this hedge here. That hedge fence, I'm just going to put it at the back, just such that I'm going to drag it here. I'm going to rotate it by 90 degrees. I'm going to increase on the sides. Something like this. So I'm going to drag this here to the end. Let me see how it works. Yeah, at least now, that now doesn't make our background compete with what's here at the foreground. So I still want to come here and adjust some things. That is to talk about the white balance. If you drag it here, it becomes a little bit white. Here, it becomes a little bit darker. So I want to use a white balance of about 6,500 is the default. So for the exposure, I'm still not yet happy with the exposure I'm getting. Let me just try to play around with the exposure. Maybe something like here. Something like 8.8. Okay, 9. Maybe like 9. Let me try this. Because the other one was called what? Let me first see. It's called low sun cloudy 21, so that I can go back to it easily. Let me try this and see. Why is it so bright? I need to come here and first change the exposure. There's also this. Actually, this one has the skies I actually wanted exactly. Let me rotate a little bit here. Guys, don't you see this actually is very good? I think something like this is not bad for this image, because I actually like the blue up there, and then the fact that it has some trees in the background, just a little bit, it's okay. Let's go with this. So the next thing I'm going to do is to put my lights underneath here, because we remember in our last model we had floating steps. So I'm going to put these lights. So for these lights, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to change these materials from what they are right now, because you could actually go and use neons directly, but I don't like to use neons because neons actually they disturb me a lot. Okay, like they're not so great. So what I usually do is I change the material. This particular material, I first change it to a white wall. Let me just come and change this particular material to a white wall. After changing it to a white wall, I'm going to come in the wall settings itself and I give it what we call emissiveness. So the wall is going to emit light. So I'm going to come here and go to the emissiveness. I turn the figure to maybe like, let's say 150. Now you can see it's now giving out some light of its own without even me putting another lighting material. And then you need to come down here under details and you change the temperature to be like more like yellow light. And then you can come back in your view, 3D view. If you try to run a test render, you actually see that there's light underneath the stairs or the steps. So that will give you more like a feeling of a floating steps, right? I think that one is somehow better. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to put some plants here. I'm going to come here and first have a look at this. I'm just going to check it out. Yeah, okay. Those plants are not bad there. Of course, like I always tell you guys, most cases, just go to Pinterest, get inspired. Now, like there's this cat tree here in front. Actually, you could even go ahead and create this, by the way. Let's create this and we see even this you can actually create these slabs in Twinmotion here, you guys. Let's do that. Let's start by creating that ground. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to go to quit my media tab. So for the ground, what I'm going to do, I want it to be just here, not in front of the house directly, but somewhere here. So I come, there's an object here. I have, there's an object I saved in my user library. It's here. So this looks more like a natural ground, you see. Now this natural ground, I can just expand it a little bit here, sideways, you know, and then I come to my 3D view. I first see it is a little bit far, so I'm going to come and drag it here, somewhere like here. If I go back in my 3D view, now it's appearing in my 3D view. So the next thing that I want to do, if you come in our reference image here, in our reference image, we have some stones and some grasses around it. So you're going to come here. Let me just quit my media mode for now. So you'll come here. Now the first thing you want to do is to change the material to soil. So you go under materials, go underground, go to nature, look for material with some soil. We don't, okay, we have this. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to drag this here. So it looks more like this with some soil. And then this thing looks a little bit higher. So I'm just going to adjust its shape here a little bit. I bring down like here. If I go back in my 3D image, it looks like this. Okay, it doesn't look so dark, so I'm going to select here. I come to the settings of this soil. I'm going to make the soil a little bit darker and a little bit soily, something like that. Then I'm going to adjust on the scale a bit. Okay, once you're done with that, come and get your stones. For stones, you're going to come to objects. You're going to go to, is it under objects? Wait, it's been a while since I used the real Twinmotion library. Where are the stones? Okay, library, vegetation, rocks. Yeah, there are rocks here. So you can download these rocks. Though there are not so many. Let me bring here one and I see. So we have a rock here. We can make this a little bit bigger. And then you, of course, don't do the whole thing. Just do the views that you want to show people, the view that you want to render. So, but I don't like these rocks. I have some rocks in my personal library. I'm going to come down here. Little bit like that. Okay, so we have like a garden that we created in front of the house. And then we just need to go and look for a tree that is similar to this. No, not exact tree, but something similar to this. So we're going to go to your Archicad libraries here, vegetation, trees. I think there's another tree that I intended to bring here, not that one. Fortunately, I can't see it. I think it's this one that I wanted, not the other one. Yeah, I just like this tree so much. So I'm going to bring this tree here. I have it somewhere here. I rotate it a bit. I change the edge a little bit. So you're going to have something like that. And then for our concrete slabs, of course, in our reference image here, we have these concrete slabs that are going. So I'm just going to come and do this. I'm going to first unselect, quit media mode. I'm going to come here. There's something we call, when you come in Twinmotion, there's something under objects called primitives. We have a primitive of 1 meter box or 1 meter plane. I'm going to drag it here. Or you can do this in Archicad if you want to. You can actually go back to Archicad and edit it using a slab. But for me, I don't have that time, so I'm just going to come, make this a little bit thicker. Where's the thickness here? Make it a little bit thicker here. And then you're going to move it somewhere in the middle. Let's check here in our 3D view. Somewhere like here. Okay. And then we need to make it bigger. So I'll come here. I'm going to make it bigger in size. Something like that. And then you move it closer here. Then you drag a copy of this, several copies. I'm going to put like 5 of them. Is 5 enough? I think so. So if I come here, now I have five stepping slabs, this leading to our house. Okay. And then also we need to, okay, let's also have these stones here, just on the sides of our image. Of course, they won't be much, but I'm going to put there some stones. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to come and let me first change the speed. I'm going to put to 4. So let's assign this a material. I have a material here in my library that is concrete. So let's give it this kind of concrete here. Then I'm going to come and rotate this concrete a little bit to 90 degrees. Like I want it to have this grooved texture, and then I'll come and give it what we call the color to be a little bit darker, and then there's something called grudge. So give it grudge to make it look to look a little bit dirty and natural. We're going to do that, and then if you come back in our 3D view and you just run a test render, you have something like this. Okay, that's not bad, guys. And then for the stones, I'm also going to do the same thing. I'm going to get a copy of this thing. I'm going to just drag it a little bit. Let me just drag a copy here to the side. And then I'm going to edit. I'm going to adjust the width and the height. I'm going to make it here to extend like up to here, and make it smaller in thickness. Let me see here the thickness. I'm going to make it somehow like here, smaller. Then I move it towards in there, and then I come and assign it a material of stones. I have like enkokoto here. I'm going to give it a material of enkokoto. You come here to edit it, something like this. This is more like enkokoto, right? For those who are seeing clearly. So I'm going to drag a copy of it and make it come here. So if you come in your 3D view, you have something like this. So you can see it's almost like we have enkokoto here. Let me just come and make it bigger. Let me select the material here. I make the scale a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to bring real enkokoto. I'm going to actually come and pick this material. I drag a copy of it here. I click OK, and then I'm going to multiply it along this side. Maybe like so. I feel this is too big, but it's also okay. I'll see what to do with it. So I have some grass that I have saved in my library here. Actually, too much here, and it has some flowers. Let me also put some desert, some snake plant, maybe like here in the background, maybe around here. Yeah, some snake plant there. First get rid of some of these plants. They look too many, eh? Maybe like 1, 2, 3 here. Some yellow flowers there a little bit. There's this tool here called populate that you actually use to paint or scatter anything on any surface. So I'm just going to go for scatter. A scatter tool. I want to put this plant called dandelion. How do you call it? Dandelions. Even this one, weed. There's this weed here, which is good. And then there's this one, weed one. So I'm just going to download these ones, and then I drag them here. Let me first start with this one. I'm going to scatter it over this surface. So I'm going to scatter them here, but I see it is a very small in size. I'm going to increase on the size a little bit, such that when you come in your view here, at least you see some vegetation on top of that black soil. Yeah, you see some vegetation on top of that black soil. I don't know if you're able to see it clearly, but then let me just add in some little bit of flowers, something that has flowers. This dandelion here has. So I'm going to come and select this, go to select the scatter vegetation. I'm going to add in these dandelions here. Then I select them. I add them to be part of that, such that when you come back, actually now you're seeing something yellow in that garden, which is more realistic garden. Okay, so guys, that part is done. Now let's also come and put something here in the background. Actually, now for this video, I've just been focusing so much on one view, but you can do other many views. I've just focused on one view for this particular video. Now, here in the background, I want to put some plant like this. This plant is called the MT PM460. Let me change the size and make it a little bit bigger, so that when I come in my 3D view, I can see it somewhere in the background. But also it's too big, so I'm just going to reduce on the size a bit. I'm going to make it like this, and then I move it a little bit into the ground. I can drag a copy of this and have it somewhere here. Then I click OK. And then here around this part, now like you see in this reference image, we have some little garden also around the building somewhere there. Somebody actually asked us about spotlights. Now let me show you the spotlights, how you can actually do spotlights. You can actually come into Archicad here. You could come into Archicad and add a spotlight object or whatever, but I'm not going to go into that. Let me just do it in Twinmotion. I'm going to come here in Twinmotion. I'm just going to go into my libraries, objects. Let me go to primitives. Here we have a cylinder. I'm going to drag this cylinder. I'm going to place this cylinder here. I'm going to adjust the cylinder size as small as possible. I'm going to make it so small such that it's easy. You can easily work around it. Let me make it small as possible. Even the height, somewhere like that. And then I'm just going to move this cylinder into the ceiling up. So I'm going to move it up, and I'm going to adjust its position. I'm going to bring it like here. I think this is too small. So after that, if you come here in your 3D view, you realize that actually we have spotlights underneath there. They're appearing 1, 2, 3. But let me just move this one a little bit in the middle, somewhere here. Now, after that, you need to now come and give it a material texture of a spotlight. So like I told you, what I usually do, I come and I select it. Actually, let me first bring them a little bit down. They are too hidden into the ceiling. Like there. So what I will do, I will come and give this a white material for a wall. Have it here in my settings. I go to materials, come and assign it this white material. After that, you're going to come and change the emissiveness of this material. I'm going to change it from, you come under the settings, make it to emit light. So we're going to use 100 as a figure for emitting that light. So as soon as I do that, I see it begins to light up. Then you just come and change the color temperature to something like this. And then you want to come down here where there's grain, you just increase the size of grain, lift, increase gamma and saturation. Once you do all that, you can come back in your 3D view and you run a test render to see what if it has any effect. So you're going to run a test render. You're going to see that it begins to show, something like spotlights underneath there. So now you can see there's some light at the balcony. Now these tones, I feel they're too light. I want to make them a little bit darker. So I'm going to come here and just give them a darker tone, something like this. Then if I go back in my 3D view and I try to run a test render, at least I have a darker tone now. I think that darker tone is much better than what we had before. And then the lights at the balcony, I'm going to adjust them a bit. The temperature to be a little bit warmer. And then the intensity, I'm going to reduce a bit to like 150. And then there's what we call the cone angle. I'm going to reduce the cone angle a bit. Okay, let me just increase it a bit because I want this effect of the light here, you know, this effect of the light on this balcony here. I just want it to be like this. So I'm just going to increase the cone angle a little bit. Then I'm going to reduce on what we call the attenuation. It's like how far the light goes. So I'll make it like 2.5 meters or 3 meters. Okay, let me do it 5 meters just to shine on the balcony. Then if you come back in your 3D view and you try to run a test render, you see there's a little bit of more life to the balcony from outside. Much as we have life inside, we also have some life outside the balcony. You see, something like that. And then the other thing is what else from our reference image here that we can add. Of course, for the grass, don't worry, I'm going to do a realistic grass later. It's one of the last things I do. Now let's add some trees in our background. Don't always do too many trees, just do a little bit. Actually, even our background has been shielded off, so I don't know why we should even do them. Let's just do some tree here in front, just to appear somewhere here. So I'll come in my library. I have my trees. I've saved in my library. I'm going to come and grab one of those trees. One of them is, I think, this type here. I'm going to drag it in here. Where's that tree? Okay, it's here. So if I come back in my 3D view, I'll have something like that. So I just wanted to put this shadow of the tree on the building intentionally to give it more life. You know, it's more like a compound of someone's compound at home. So with that done, I just want to put some plants here around this place. I'm going to do like a little garden here. So I'm just going to select this garden, drag a copy of it. I'm going to copy this garden here, and I have it somewhere here. And then I'm going to adjust it a little bit to look more like this. So when you come in your 3D, you can actually see it is somewhere there, a little garden that's a little bit raised. So I want to come and give it here like some desert plants. So I have many types. I have this type here. I have this type. And I also have this type. So I'm going to put this one. Around them also. I'm going to select this stone, drag a copy of this stone, put it around here, change the size. This is too big. I'm going to adjust it to somewhere like here. Also somewhere like here, I have a stone, rotate it a little bit. Okay, so when you come back to my 3D, so I have some life on all sides, you know. Now I have these plants here, that one there, and then the rest can remain as grass. So guys, I think let's go to our LUT and we just bring in a LUT and we see. if a lot can make our image much better. So if let me start with this, or we can do this, or we try D7, or we try ISM. No, let me just leave it. Let me just leave it to none. Those settings are incredible. And then we are going to. By the way, I forgot this garden here. I need to put. I also need to give it something here, some flowers here, on top of this, so that it has some life of that kind. I need to put some flowering plant here. Something like that. With I have another one here with a yellow flower. This one has no flower. I need to get the one with the flower. Let it load. It's not loading. Okay, it's here. This one has a flower, so I'll put it here, like somewhere at the corner. And I'm just going to reduce on the size a bit. And I'm going to move it backwards. So I'll move it somewhere here. Then I just rotate a bit. Okay, something like that. Which is our main view for the video. So once you've done this, you can now go and make your settings. So when I was choosing it here under the image tab, of course, I chose my 2K image. So it's up to you now. In your final render, if you want, you can come and change it to 4K image. If your machine can run it, well and good for you. If you want a 2K, but I think I'll just do a 4K image. I'm going to come and change these settings here for the render. Let me first save, because sometimes you can choose 4K. The moment you choose 4K, the computer will crash. So let me first change. Let me first save before my project actually crashes. Then let me just add maybe a flower to the balcony, and also add a human being in the scene. So I'll come here. I'm going to check in my libraries. I have a library of plants. I have some plants here. I'm going to drag this one here. This is a little bit bigger because by the look of the scale, they look to appear so small. Somewhere like there. So now time for my grass. So those who are asking for me to do realistic grass, now I have a template for grass that I already saved. Our stones have come back, and that's what we want actually. Yeah, that's what we want. So something of that kind. So something of that design, then I can come back to my view here. And then you can see our grass actually stops here. It doesn't now interfere with our stones. And there's a way it tries to blend in, You see that car path there that it has, trying to blend into the stones, which is actually very good. And then finally, I can now come and set my pixel per sample. I'm going to set this to, right now it's at 150. I'm going to upgrade and set it to around 750. And then I'll wait for it to render and see. Of course, the more pixels that you increase, and also the more you make the image HD, the heavier the image becomes, and it takes a longer time to render. So this is the final image, guys. I'm just going to now run this render. So now this is done. I'll just come down here. I come to export. After clicking on export, I'll come and click on image. Then I choose the image I want to export. Then I'll come and select export. Then I'm going to choose my render folder where I want to put the image. Already it has moved somewhere, and it's telling me about 7 minutes, yeah, to render this image. So